Everyone in the underground knows that if you cross Vanessa Thorne, the ruthless matriarch of the Crimson Syndicate, you might stand a chance if Julian Blackwood, the legendary sentimentalist, pleads your case. But if you cross Julian Blackwood, you're dead. That was the rule, because Vanessa loved Julian with a terrifying intensity. That spring, when the rain slicked the neon streets of Seattle and the cherry blossoms were in full bloom, Julian was ambushed. He was dragged out to the Mojave wastelands, subjected to unspeakable torture, and humiliated by his enemies. His tendons were severed. His hands, once steady enough to deflect a bullet with a blade, could no longer hold a fork. His core, the source of his bioenergy, was shattered. He was a cripple. Vanessa went on a rampage. Armed with her signature white umbrella, she descended upon the Mojave like an avenging angel, painting the desert sands red. When she returned with Julian, the sunset was bleeding into the skyline. Julian's neural pathways were fried, his body screaming in agony. He drifted into consciousness, only to hear a conversation through the thin walls of the safe house. Matriarch, you poisoned Julian, causing him to fall to the Mojave Quartet and become an invalid. How will you handle it if he finds out? It's his own fault for being too talented. Vanessa's voice was cold. He was overshadowing Caleb. Years ago, Julian was already ahead. To slow his progress, I married him, distracted him with domestic life. The election for the Apex chairman is imminent. I have to clear all obstacles for Caleb. Give the order. Eliminate everyone involved. He must never know the truth. Even if he becomes a vegetable, I will keep him by my side for the rest of his life, as long as it ensures Caleb's success. Julian felt his blood run cold, rushing backward through his veins. It felt as though 1,000 knives were stabbing his heart. His eyes, bloodshot and wide, filled with a profound sorrow. Who could have imagined? The wife who supposedly loved him more than life itself was the architect of his destruction. She had married him only to stunt his growth, all for another man. In the world of modern mercenaries, there were two titans, Julian Blackwood, the sentimentalist, and Caleb Sterling, the golden boy. 3 years ago, Julian rode a white motorcycle through the underworld, a hero to many. But he gave it up to be with Vanessa. Now, he realized it was all a setup. The capture, the torture in the Mojave, it was orchestrated because he was about to interfere with Caleb's rise. The pain of the betrayal eclipsed the physical agony. He coughed up blood, his heart crushing under the weight of the lie. The door burst open. Vanessa, dressed in immaculate white, rushed in. She cradled him, tears falling like pearls. Julian, you're awake. I've mobilized the entire syndicate. We will find a cure. Seeing you like this. I wish it were me. If you died, I wouldn't want to live. Her sobbing filled the room. Outside, the cherry blossoms fell in the rain, mirroring her apparent grief. If he hadn't heard her cold confession moments ago, he would have believed her performance. Julian looked at her beautiful, tear-streaked face. His heart bled. Vanessa, he whispered, his voice trembling, doesn't the syndicate have the Lazarus serum? I don't want to be a cripple. I want to fight again. Vanessa cried harder, avoiding his eyes. The serum. It's gone. I used the last of it. I'm so sorry, but I will fight the whole world to find another way. Julian stared at her and slowly closed his eyes. He knew for a fact there was one vial left. She had given it to Caleb Sterling. The last flicker of hope in Julian's eyes died. The bright room turned into a dark, endless hell. His love for Vanessa began to disintegrate. Seeing his silence, Vanessa assumed he was in shock. She stormed out of the room, loudly ordering her subordinates to find a cure at any cost, threatening death to anyone who stood in her way. It was grand theater. A breeze drifted in, carrying the scent of damp blossoms and a biting chill. Julian opened his eyes. The warmth was gone, replaced by a deep, abyssal darkness. Vanessa didn't know that his sentimental style hadn't plateaued because of domestic bliss. It stalled because the final technique required the severance of all emotion. To be ruthless is to be invincible. He had loved her too much to take that step. Now, the choice had been made for him. Vanessa led the Crimson Syndicate to flatten the Eagle's Nest stronghold, standing atop the ruins, her white coat stained crimson against the sky. She claimed it was revenge for Julian, willing to make enemies of the entire underworld. People hated her brutality, but were moved by her devotion. Everyone knew Vanessa Thorne loved Julian Blackwood. They were the tragic romance of the century. Even the stoic abbot of the Iron Temple sent his blessings. But for Julian, recalling these grand gestures now only brought pain. Everything was a mirage. The more he had loved her, the more it hurt now. But there was time. With every ounce of pain he endured, He was one step closer to severing his emotional tethers. 48 days remained. Then, he would master the Void Blade. Vanessa kept Julian alive, waiting until his body was fully broken before allowing the ghost doctor to intervene, barely keeping him from death. To the world, Julian was half dead. He sat by the window, watching the garden. The cherry trees Vanessa had planted for him were stripped bare, the petals crushed into the mud. Once, they had exchanged vows beneath these trees. Now, the chaotic energy in his body rampaged like wild beasts, eating him alive. He survived the first 3 critical days. Out of guilt, Vanessa threw a fortune in black market pharmaceuticals at him, medicines worth millions. She watched every dose, appearing heartbroken when they failed, yet Julian caught the flicker of relief in her eyes. He lay there listening to her weep, feeling nothing but nausea. He had never imagined a woman could be this venomous while professing undying love. When the ghost doctor finally declared Julian permanently broken, the estate went quiet. Vanessa held Julian's limp hand. "Julian, we won't give up. I'll fix you, even if it costs me my life." Julian looked at her with dead eyes. He knew she was the biggest obstacle to his recovery. "Do you really love me?" Vanessa instinctively started to answer, but when she met his hollow gaze, a sudden, primal fear struck her heart. It felt like looking into a grave. The Julian who looked at her with adoration was gone. She forced a smile, pointing outside. "Let's go get some fresh air." Julian saw the mockery in it. She wanted to parade him in public, to let the world see the fallen hero, ensuring he could never challenge Caleb. He coughed, blood staining his shirt. "I'm not feeling well." She ignored him, forcing him into a wheelchair and dragging him out to the city center. The ride was torture, his internal injuries flaring, but the pain was useful. It was severing the last threads of love. She brought him to the most expensive hotel rooftop, overlooking the busy streets. Below, the whispers began. "That's Julian Blackwood? I heard he got crippled for hitting on a warlord's mistress. Karma. I thought he was a hero. Turns out he's just a predator. Disgusting." Passers-by spat insults. Julian sat like a statue, unable to move or defend himself. He watched the angry faces below, feeling a deep sorrow, not for himself, but for the fickle nature of the crowd. He had saved many of them, but justice was no match for a good scandal. Vanessa finally stepped in, feigning outrage, and ordered her guards to clear the crowd. She hugged him. "I'm so sorry, Julian. I should have protected you." Julian stared past her at the clouds. Anger was a waste of energy. He was calculating the days. Suddenly, a shout pierced the air. "News! The gentleman, Caleb Sterling, has slain the Bayou King. He saved the city." Vanessa's eyes lit up with ecstatic worship. Julian looked down. At the city gates, Caleb Sterling rode a chestnut stallion, looking every bit the savior. In his hand, he held the head of a notorious criminal. The crowd cheered, chanting his name. Caleb looked up, locking eyes with the crippled Julian on the balcony. He smirked, a cold, mocking expression. They were the twin pillars of their generation, the sentimentalist and the gentleman. One free-spirited, the other proper. Now, Caleb was the hero, and Julian was the disgraced invalid. Julian saw the malice in Caleb's eyes, the greed for power. Vanessa, watching Caleb, was so overcome with emotion that she unconsciously crushed the armrest of Julian's wheelchair, driving splinters into his flesh. Julian groaned, but she didn't notice. She didn't look back until Caleb was out of sight. By then, Julian had passed out from blood loss. "Take him back," she ordered dismissively, then leaped over the balcony, chasing after Caleb like a moth to a flame. Julian woke up 7 days later. He had nearly died from the infection caused by the wood splinters. The brush with death had accelerated his process. His humanity was stripping away, replaced by a cold, abyssal calm. He didn't ask where Vanessa was. One look out the window told him everything. The cherry trees had been uprooted. In their place stood rows of expensive orchids, Caleb's favorite flower. And in the center, a grove of green bamboo, cultivated for the gentleman. Beneath the bamboo, 2 figures stood. Caleb was reciting poetry. Vanessa was playing a zither, looking at him with burning adoration. Julian watched them, feeling the final vestiges of heartbreak fade into indifference. Caleb looked up, caught Julian's eye, and smirked. He leaped up, defying gravity with a showy display of acrobatics, sending a wave of pressurized air crashing down toward Julian. Powerless, Julian couldn't dodge. "I've heard so much about the sentimentalist. Let's spar," Caleb announced, launching a lethal strike disguised as a greeting. The air pressure pinned Julian like an insect. A blade of energy aimed for his throat. Just as it was about to connect, Caleb feigned to stumble, redirecting the force into the ground and spitting out a mouthful of blood. "Brother Julian, why didn't you dodge?" he cried out, collapsing. Vanessa, who had ignored the lethal attack on Julian, shrieked when Caleb fell. She rushed over, then turned a glare of pure fury on Julian. "Why did you hurt him?" Before he could speak, she blasted Julian with a palm strike. He flew backward, crashing 100 feet away. He looked up to see Vanessa cradling Caleb. The strike had shattered what little healing his body had done. It was clear Caleb had staged it, and Vanessa, blinded by love, had attacked her husband with lethal force. Julian's heart shattered into dust. His eyes cleared. Vanessa was gone from them. Vanessa frantically poured her own energy into Caleb to heal his minor scratch. Meanwhile, Julian lay dying in the mud, ignored. It was almost funny. Julian looked at the sky. He didn't want to die here, not in this corrupted garden. He had to survive. "Vanessa, I'm fine," Caleb said weakly, his face flushing with health from her energy transfer. "Don't blame Brother Julian. I was too eager." Vanessa glared at Julian. "He shouldn't have hurt you. Before the election, no one touches you." She helped Caleb up and walked away, leaving Julian to rot. As her silhouette faded, Julian slipped into darkness. He dreamed of the cherry blossoms, of Vanessa dancing, before a storm ripped them away. The clouds formed a demonic face, laughing. He drifted between life and death. Someone was using acupuncture to keep a spark of life in him, likely the ghost doctor. But the pain was constant. In his fever dream, the ruined garden was replaced by a lonely mountain peak where a rusted iron sword sat waiting. He tried to climb, to pull the sword. Just as his fingers brushed the rust, he woke up. Vanessa was there, looking frantic. She hugged him, sobbing, apologizing profusely. "Julian, I'm so sorry." Julian stared at the ceiling, unmoved by the performance. Sensing his detachment, Vanessa pulled back. Panic flickered in her eyes when she saw the emptiness there. "Julian, Caleb is a public figure. If he got hurt because of you, the public would tear you apart. I hit you to protect you." Julian laughed internally at the excuse. Vanessa checked the door. "Caleb feels terrible. He wants to apologize privately." Julian wanted to refuse, but the door opened. Caleb walked in, the picture of remorse. "Vanessa, may I have a moment?" Vanessa squeezed Julian's hand, warning him, then left. The moment the door clicked shut, Caleb's smile vanished. He looked at Julian with pure contempt. The great sentimentalist. "Look at you now. Pathetic." Caleb leaned in. "You didn't know? You were captured because Vanessa poisoned you with the 7-flower toxin. She watched from the ridge while they broke you." Julian trembled, a cold rage rising. Caleb patted his cheek. "You were the only threat to my ambition. Vanessa is obsessed with me. I sent one letter feigning worry, and she ruined you for me. Now the world is mine." He pulled a small ceramic jar from his coat. "The mind-eater parasite. Once you swallow this, you become a slave to the host." He forced the parasite down Julian's throat. Then Caleb pulled a knife, slashed his own arm, and screamed in fake agony. "Julian, don't." Caleb Sterling was a counterfeit. The gentleman was a facade hiding a monster. He hadn't just poisoned Julian, he framed him. The parasite burrowed into Julian's system, tearing at his heart valves. Blood seeped from his pores. Vanessa burst into the room. Seeing Caleb bleeding, she went pale. "Caleb." Caleb pointed a shaking finger at Julian. "I tried to apologize. He wouldn't listen. He used a mind-eater on me. If my life appeases him, so be it." Vanessa froze, then erupted. The room shook with her aura. The floorboard splintered. She grabbed Julian by the throat, summoning her white umbrella, its tip sharpened into a spear. Her eyes were red. "Julian, how could you be so vicious? Remove the parasite from Caleb now, or forget we were ever married." Julian couldn't speak. The parasite was eating him alive. Facing Vanessa's murderous intent, he felt a final, crushing sorrow. She was a powerhouse, yet she was blind. A simple energy scan would show he was the one infected, but she trusted Caleb blindly. With his last ounce of strength, Julian rasped. "Didn't. Liar." Vanessa screamed. The umbrella tip pressed against his throat. Julian closed his eyes, accepting his fate. You cannot wake someone who is pretending to be asleep. Just as she was about to thrust, seeing the acceptance of death on his face made her hesitate. A flash of their 3 years together stopped her hand. She dropped him, picked up Caleb, and walked out. "You aren't the man I married." The pressure lifted. Julian gasped for air. She had truly meant to kill him. As the parasite ravaged him, a strange thing happened. His shattered core, dormant for months, reacted to the foreign threat. A strand of golden energy emerged. It struck the parasite, dissolving it instantly and turning the poison into fuel. The golden energy surged, repairing his meridians. The ordeal had severed more emotional threads. Vanessa returned, furious. The Mind Eater is fatal. It requires the caster's heart blood to cure. Julian, this is your sin. You owe him. She pulled a knife. This is for Caleb. She plunged the blade into Julian's chest. He didn't flinch. He watched her draw a vial of his blood. 49 days, she said coldly. I need a vial, every day. Silence filled the room. Vanessa met his eyes and flinched. The adoration was gone. She touched his face, her voice softening, confused by her own guilt. Julian, don't look at me like that. Caleb is the future chairman. He's destined for greatness. You shouldn't have poisoned him. Julian stared at a bird flying past the window. He wanted to be that bird. Julian, stop it. I'm doing this to redeem you. She yelled, unnerved by his silence. We're married. I won't abandon you. Once Caleb is cured, we'll retire. We'll go find a quiet place. She fled the room, unable to bear his gaze. She didn't realize that in his eyes, she was fading away, becoming a ghost. For the next month, Vanessa came daily to carve out his blood. She also brought rare medicines to keep him alive. Julian never spoke. The golden energy in his gut grew stronger. He wasn't ignoring her to be petty. She simply ceased to matter. He could hear the zither playing in the garden. Vanessa was waging war on rival factions to get treasures for Caleb. She destroyed a sect for a sword he liked. She raided a temple for a manual he wanted. Caleb's birthday arrived. Vanessa filled the estate with stolen treasures. The underground had a new rule. Cross the gentleman, and the demon queen wipes out your bloodline. Caleb was poised to win the election. But Caleb was frustrated. Vanessa refused to sleep with him. Every time they got close, she saw Julian's dead eyes in her mind. Jealousy consumed Caleb. He decided the invalid had to go. The next day, Caleb faked a relapse. Vanessa, the parasite, it's resisting. I am dying. Vanessa panicked. Tell me what to do. To live. Caleb feigned hesitation. I need a whole heart replacement. Julian's heart. Vanessa froze. Caleb sighed, looking tragic. Forget it. He's your husband. A gentleman knows when to yield. Dying with your love is enough. No. Vanessa shook her head, tormented. Then her eyes hardened. I will handle it. You will not die. She rushed toward Julian's quarters. Caleb watched her go, his sorrow instantly replaced by a predatory sneer. Outside, the wind howled. The orchids bowed in the gale. Vanessa stood at Julian's door, gripping her umbrella. She wanted Caleb to rule the world. But to take Julian's heart meant killing him. She had spent the last month trying to drown out Julian's memory with Caleb's affection. But every time she drew Julian's blood, her heart ached. She felt she was making a choice between a past she couldn't let go of and a future she desperately wanted. Finally, her ambition for Caleb won out. She entered the room. Julian was standing by the window, hands clasped behind his back. It was as if he was expecting her. He didn't turn around. Vanessa froze. For a second, the man by the window didn't look like a cripple. He looked like a blade of pure light, sharp enough to cut the eyes. The illusion vanished. Julian, she said, forcing a smile, I came to see you. He turned. His gaze was physically painful to her, so indifferent it was cold. Caleb is critical, she said, her voice trembling. I need your heart. Just this last favor. The ghost doctor has a transplant technique. You can live with a donor heart. It's what you owe him. After he wins the election, we'll leave. Julian looked at her. For the first time in months, he smiled. It was a gentle smile like the spring they met. When is the election? The day after tomorrow. Julian nodded. That coincided perfectly with the end of his 49-day cycle. The emotional severance was nearly complete. Come back the day after tomorrow, he said softly. If you want this heart, you can have it. Vanessa couldn't handle his gentleness. She broke down, hugging him, weeping. I swear this is the last time. After this, I will love you until the world ends. She kissed him desperately and ran out. Julian closed his eyes, sat on the floor, and began to cycle the golden energy. Outside, lightning tore the sky. A beam of white light erupted from the room, shooting into the clouds. Every sword in the vicinity vibrated, humming in submission. That night, amidst the thunder, Julian Blackwood tempered his body with the storm. He transcended the protocol. He achieved the void state. The sentimentalist was dead. The ruthless sword was born. When the storm passed, a single beam of sword intent descended silently into the estate, striking the guest house. Caleb was meditating, absorbing the energy of his victims. He practiced the blood demon art, a forbidden technique that consumed human blood. He was a monster in a gentleman's skin. He laughed, thinking of how Julian would die by Vanessa's hand. Suddenly, his eyes snapped open. A sense of doom washed over him. A golden light slammed into his chest. It didn't kill him, but it shattered the delicate balance of his stolen power. The blood energy revolted. Caleb screamed as his meridians ruptured, black blood oozing from his eyes. Vanessa rushed in. Caleb, the parasite, help me. He lied again. Vanessa stabilized him, her heart torn. She promised Julian she'd wait until tomorrow. But Caleb's screams broke her resolve. To save him, she turned and marched toward Julian's room. Caleb, left alone, swallowed a blood pearl, a concentrated essence of 10,000 lives to survive. He panted on the floor, terrified. That golden light. It felt like divine judgment. Could it be Julian? No, he thought. He's a cripple. He sneered at Julian's window. Die for me, you fool. As the sun rose, the day of the election dawned. Vanessa stood outside Julian's door. Julian, I'm sorry. Caleb can't wait. I broke my promise. But I swear I'll keep you alive. No answer. Don't be petty. You owe him this. Silence. Vanessa blasted the door open. The room was empty. A bloody quilt lay on the floor. Julian Blackwood was gone. Panic, cold and sharp, pierced her chest. Julian. She tore the room apart. He wasn't hiding. He had vanished into thin air. She screamed his name, her voice amplified by her energy, shaking the estate. Come out. Stop playing games. He didn't appear. She grabbed the guards, interrogating them violently, but they knew nothing. In a rage, she executed them all. Find him. Turn the world upside down. She sat on the bed where he had suffered for months. The silence was deafening. The realization crept in like a slow poison. He had left. He wasn't playing. He was gone. The panic she had suppressed with arrogance finally exploded. She sat there until dawn, the white umbrella discarded on the floor. A subordinate approached cautiously. Matriarch, regarding Caleb. Speak. The ghost doctor. He says Caleb isn't infected. His symptoms. They match the recoil of the blood demon art. Vanessa froze. The blood demon art. The most reviled, evil technique in history. It required mass murder to practice. And Caleb, the gentleman, was practicing it. Impossible, she whispered. Her adoration for Caleb was built on a memory from when she was 13, a white-clad swordsman on a white horse who saved her from bandits. The gentleman's sword. She had loved that image for years. She assumed Caleb was that man. If he was a monster, then who was the hero? Get out. She stumbled toward Caleb's quarters. Her mind was reeling. She remembered Julian. Julian rode a white motorcycle. Julian wore white. Julian used a sword. The truth hit her like a sledgehammer. The hero she had worshipped, the man she destroyed her husband for. It was never Caleb. It was Julian. Vanessa released her perception, scanning the bamboo grove. She heard Caleb talking to his henchmen. Idiots. I need 1,000 lives by noon to stabilize my art. Use the bugs, frame the Bayou gangs. And Vanessa? That stupid woman. I'll kill her once I'm chairman. It's hilarious. She still thinks I'm the one who saved her all those years ago. We checked the records. The only swordsman in that area that day was Julian Blackwood. Vanessa felt like she had been staked through the heart. She stood in the bamboo grove, trembling. She had destroyed the man who saved her, the man who loved her, for a monster who planned to kill her. The regret was a physical weight crushing her lungs. She wanted to rush in and shred Caleb to pieces. But she stopped. Death was too easy. You want to be chairman? She whispered, wiping blood tears from her face. I'll give you a show. She walked in, face composed. Caleb feigned weakness. Vanessa, I'm ready to die if it saves Julian. She saw through him now. She took his hand, sensing the chaotic, evil energy inside him. No need, she said flatly. Julian's heart. Keep it. Let's go to the election. Caleb, thinking she meant she had killed Julian, was overjoyed. He rode to the White Cloud Temple for the ceremony. Thousands were there. He fought challengers, looking every bit the hero. He won easily. The abbot stepped up to crown him. Caleb's internal monologue was ecstatic. I win. The world is mine. But he didn't notice the golden energy Julian had implanted the night before, the delay action fuse. Just as he grasped the seal of office, the golden energy detonated. It didn't explode him, it uncorked him. The blood demon energy he had suppressed erupted. A pillar of red, screaming souls shot into the sky from his body. The crowd gasped. The abbot recoiled. Blood demon art. You are a monster. Caleb stood exposed, the evil energy undeniable. The crowd turned on him instantly. Kill the demon. Caleb panicked. He fought back, killing indiscriminately, revealing his true nature. But he was outnumbered. Just as he was about to be cut down, a red sedan chair smashed through the crowd. Vanessa! She grabbed him and fled. He thought she was saving him. He passed out. When he woke up, he was in the desert. He was chained to a rock, his tendons cut, his core shattered. He screamed for days. Finally, a figure approached. It was Vanessa. Her hair had turned completely white from grief. She looked like a ghost. Welcome to hell, Caleb. Vanessa didn't torture Caleb for pleasure. She did it to remind herself of her sins. She had destroyed the gentleman brand entirely. The Sterling family was wiped out. But revenge brought no peace. Julian was gone. Vanessa spent 3 years searching. She became the white-haired witch, a figure of terror. She slaughtered anyone who had ever insulted Julian. She planted peach trees over their graves. The underworld descended into chaos, a war between the Syndicate and the Alliance. Famine and death spread. Vanessa didn't care. She broadcasted messages begging Julian to return. Julian was in a small, misty village in the Pacific Northwest called Sanctuary. He stood on a bridge, watching a girl wash clothes in the creek. He wasn't the sentimentalist anymore. He had achieved a state of being that transcended human connection. He felt love for the world, for the water, for the air, but not for specific people. He had left a trace of energy in Caleb, not to kill him, but to reveal him. That was the nature of his new path. Truth. He found the village because of a recurring dream about a mountain with a rusted sword. It was a place where 2 ancient legends, the Syndicate founder and the sweeping monk, had retired. They were trapped here, unable to see the sword on the peak. Julian could see it clearly. The 2 old masters were shocked. They realized Julian was the chosen one. They explained that the sword was a key to a higher dimension of power, something beyond martial arts. They died sitting in meditation that night, passing their legacy of stewardship to him. Julian settled in. He ran the old blacksmith shop. He lived simply. He stopped trying to climb the mountain to get the sword. He realized the sword wasn't an object, it was a state of mind. 2 years passed. The outside world was burning. Vanessa's war had devastated the region. Rumors spread of a supreme treasure in Sanctuary that could grant invincibility. The Alliance surrounded the village, kept out by the mist. Finally, the mist lifted. The Alliance elites charged in, greedy for power. Suddenly, white hair strands fell from the sky like rain, piercing hearts. The white-haired witch arrived in her sedan chair. She massacred the invaders in seconds. She stepped out, looking toward the mountain. But then she saw it, a white horse grazing by the stream, a peach tree in bloom. She stumbled forward, tears streaming down her face. Julian, she found him in a small, run-down inn. He was brewing tea. Julian, she rushed to him, ready to beg, to scream, to hold him. But she stopped dead. His eyes. There was no hate. There was no love. He looked at her the way a man looks at a rock or a tree. Total, absolute indifference. Vanessa fell to her knees, sobbing. This was worse than hatred. He had erased her. She declared a ceasefire with the Alliance immediately, giving back all territory, just to make this village a sanctuary. She knelt outside his inn for 3 days. Julian treated her like a customer. He offered her tea. He told her to rest. He was kind but distant. One evening, he made fish. She flipped out, destroying the kitchen with a blast of energy, unable to handle his casual kindness. Hate me, hit me, don't ignore me. He just sat there, eating his fish amidst the rubble, protected by a force field of calm. She rebuilt the inn. She stayed for 3 months, trying to buy his love with treasures. He ignored them. One autumn day, she saw him packing a bag. Panic seized her. Where are you going? He smiled, that terrifying impersonal smile. It's time. He looked at the mountain and whispered, sword come. The world shifted. The peach blossoms floated up, forming a staircase. A beam of golden light erupted from the peak. A rusted iron sword flew down into Julian's hand. Vanessa fell to the ground, crushed by the sheer pressure of his existence. It wasn't just martial arts. It was a force of nature. She realized then that he wasn't waiting for a treasure. He was conquering his final demon. She was the demon. He had let her stay to test himself, to see if her presence moved him. It didn't. He had severed the final thread. Julian looked at her. He didn't kill her. He didn't forgive her. He simply didn't need her. Goodbye, Vanessa. He walked away, the sword in hand, stepping into the mist. He left the village, left the underworld, left the memories. Vanessa stood on the bridge, watching him go. She saw a hallucination of the boy on the white horse from years ago. He smiled and rode away. The war ended. The syndicate retreated. Vanessa returned to her fortress. She spent the rest of her life trying to reach the mountain peak in her mind, trying to understand the state of ruthlessness. She finally climbed in her mind, finding the peach tree and the umbrella. She realized that her obsession was her prison. Years later, Vanessa, now old and dying, entered a sealed cave to meditate until death. As the stone door closed, she looked at the slice of blue sky one last time, whispering a name that no longer belonged to anyone. Somewhere in the south, in a sunny alleyway filled with the scent of rain and flowers, a man on a white horse played a bamboo flute. He looked at the sky, smiling. The Jianghu is fine, but freedom is better. Story complete part 2. Mandatory separators.